Keep saying over and over again, we are not comfortable with this level of immigration. I understand why. It doesn't make you a racist to say that. And yet, the liberal parts of, certainly in America, Alex Padilla said last week, he is our senator here, by reviving Trump's asylum ban, Biden has undermined American values. And then they all stand back and go, we don't want to be called a racist, so we will not make a move on immigration.
Now that everyone is berating the left for their failed sanctuary cities, Maher has joined the fight. He even warned the DNC early on that the entire notion was never going to work, but they ignored him. Maher can't keep quiet now that the same idea has ignited one of the worst migrant crises in history. Buckle up, everybody. This one is really hot.
Again, the same principle as I was saying before about like the reverse of what liberalism really is. Liberalism is, for the sake of humanity and compassion, can we get these people off the streets? And woke is, how dare you ask them to move? This is their home.
They have rights.
No, it's not. There's easily a better solution to this. But instead they put them in hotels? That's your answer, hotels? Could everybody just stop the posturing?
Maher argues that real compassion doesn't mean making the streets more comfortable. It means helping people off them. True liberalism, he says, should focus on tackling the root causes of hardship: unemployment, addiction, and mental illness. It shouldn't glorify homelessness as some kind of lifestyle choice. He calls out those who insist the homeless should simply be left alone, describing that attitude as part of the extreme fringe of the left. Choosing to look away isn't kindness, he warns. It's neglect disguised as virtue. Maher reminds his audience that liberalism once stood for giving people a chance to rebuild their lives, not for pretending that misery is freedom. Progress doesn't come from ignoring suffering, he said.
Don't pretend that you love migrants so much, and then when we send them to you, you don't like them. You know? Mm-hmm. You're full of and we can see that. Yeah, you like them when it wasn't your problem because you're not a border state. And then when they show up in Chicago and New York, you're like, what the f***? What are we going to do with these
says, it begins where suffering ends. Many blue states far from the southern border, places like New York, Illinois, and Massachusetts, have long voiced support for open borders when it suited their politics. But that enthusiasm faded once the migrants actually arrived. These states, once loud in their calls for limitless compassion, were the first to sound the alarm when the buses started pulling in. In New York City, shelters quickly hit their limits. Chicago faced overcrowding, and Massachusetts even declared a state of emergency. The same leaders who preached empathy and inclusion from the podium suddenly seemed far less welcoming when the reality showed up at their doorstep. Their actions revealed a clear double standard, one that exposes the gap between words and responsibility. Supporting open borders is easy when your own community isn't the one bearing the strain.
Eventually, this was going to come to a neighborhood near you, and it is. We need to control the border. We need to call a state of emergency, and we need to properly fund this national crisis. We need help. We need help, and it's not going to get any better. From this moment on, it's downhill. There is no more room.
That's Mayor Eric Adams, a well-known orator who once supported unfettered immigration and publicly declared New York to be a sanctuary city. But in reaction to the serious migrant problem, he is now singing an entirely different song. The idea of an open border was never feasible, as Adams has discovered the hard way. Every shelter is occupied, the budget of the city is in ruins, and the public is furious. Paradoxically, the man who used to embrace everyone is now pushing for border restrictions. It is good to see a little bit of reality at last. But what about individuals like Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass or California Governor Gavin Nome? Would they ever admit that the open borders policy was a serious mistake? Not a chance. They will keep defending the facade of compassion even as their villages fall apart due to their own faulty ideology.
Voters keep saying over and over again, we are not comfortable with this level of immigration. I understand why. It doesn't make you a racist to say that. And yet, the liberal parts of, certainly in America, Alex Padilla said last week, he is our senator here, by reviving Trump's asylum ban, Biden has undermined American values. And then they all stand back and go, we don't want to be called a racist, so we will not make a move on immigration.
And that's the real problem. In private, Many Democrats admit that the open borders policy is pushing America's resources to the breaking point and endangering its security. Many, though, are too afraid to admit it in public. Behind closed doors, they see the strain on cities, the rising crime, and the overworked social infrastructure. But when the cameras roll, they nod in agreement with the party line. Why? Because speaking the truth comes at a price. As soon as any member of the fringe left challenges the policy, accusations of cruelty, betrayal, and xenophobia are made. So instead of honesty, we have silence. Leadership is replaced by fear. For many Democrats, defending the country is less essential than preserving their reputation.
Going to get them at election day. It's happening in Europe right now. That proves it in Europe, and it's going to happen here in America.
There's a real moral reason that we should let people into this country who are suffering.
At any number?
Forward.
No.
I mean,
But that's their point. 64% of Latinos support giving the president authority to shut down the U.S. borders. 62% of registered voters would support all migrants.
Indeed, precisely. In reality, the same people the left claims to be safeguarding are in favor of stricter border controls. The instability caused by unrestricted immigration is most familiar to them. Many came here legally, worked hard to start a life, and now watch with dismay as the system is overloaded with people who cross the border without being held accountable. These immigrants understand that without structure, friendliness is not compassion. Anarchy is present. They have seen what happens when boundaries break down and lawlessness takes over. Therefore, if people who have personally experienced it start to tell you that ignoring them isn't progressive, if the same people liberals claim to be defending are calling for tighter borders, maybe it's time for the Democratic leadership to take notice.
What do you New Yorkers think of how Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul?
Yes, you pronounced it right.
I take it you're a big fan. Have handled the city's migrant crisis. I saw today they're offering any of these migrants, this sounds like a game show, a plane trip to anywhere in the world. There's policy, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Both Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul have reached a breaking point due to the immigration problem and have decided to take creative action. In any case, that's what they told themselves. Their idea is to provide free flights to migrants so they can relocate. It sounds generous on paper, but there's a catch. Nobody is using those flights. Why? Because the migrants traveled without taking any chances. In particular, they went to the United States. The disastrous failure of the strategy illustrated the futility of a program that relies more on catchphrases than strategies. Once claiming to be a safe refuge for everybody, the Democrats are now quietly trying to distance themselves from the very catastrophe they helped bring about.
Some of these places short of deserve it. I'll ask you this. By saying we're a sanctuary city, like how these terrible racist border states were, and then when they called their bluff and sent the migrants to them, they were like, suddenly they weren't quite so liberal. What I call liberal in theory, people. A lot of people are liberal in theory, and when the migrants arrived, they were like, what the f***?
It all comes down to one thing: double standards. Liberals have perfected the art of saying whatever sounds best when the cameras are rolling and the crowd is listening. They talk about compassion, equality, and inclusion, crafting the perfect phrases to win applause and votes. But when those same ideas start unraveling and real problems appear, the noise suddenly fades into silence and blame shifting. As pressure mounts, they quietly back away from the causes they once championed, pretending they never did in the first place. When their bright slogans collide with harsh reality, they vanish. That's politics at its worst, kind when it's convenient, absent when it counts. True leadership means holding firm to your principles, even when things don't go as planned, yet too many modern liberals seem more focused on appearances than on results. And now their own contradictions are finally catching up with them.
Part of this is a backlash to how badly Biden handled the immigration situation. It can't just be like come one, come all. Which
Dude,
it was.
there's plenty of room here, and we need
Room.
There's plenty of room in America. Come on, there's not lack of room in
But
America.
it's never about room, it's about resources. And about, like having countries have to have a border. It just can't be, they've done surveys and something like 200 million people around the world when asked, would you come to America? You could, yes, I would. Why wouldn't you? Lots of countries, are, and they would love to be here. You can't let anybody.
Right. The places aren't, but
Well, they are. That's why they want to come.
It is usually because of America, what America.
Bill Maher sums it up precisely. It is unrelated to space. It is related to resources. Despite its size, wealth, and power, even the greatest nation in the world has its limitations. You can't keep bringing the world in when housing, healthcare, and social institutions are already overcrowded. Compassion cannot be sustained without skill. Under the guise of morality, it is self-destruction. Ma argues that instead of flooding across borders, migrants should use the same determination to fight corruption, demand accountability, and improve their home countries. Because escaping to America must not be the only choice. Every nation has an obligation to improve itself. Ma asserts that no one benefits if the U.S. collapses as a result of everyone else's problems. It's not cruel to say no. It is realism for the sake of a nation's survival.
Immigrants don't like it that the left seems to have this unrelenting negativity toward the country that these immigrants worked so hard to get here. They really worked hard to get here. And when Trump says, I think a lot of them are going, yeah, you right into where I came from. Why do you think I got on the ocean on a raft or walked 1,000 miles? Because I was living in paradise? There are places that are in this world, and the immigrants.
And that's where the real danger begins. When borders lose meaning, so does security. Unchecked immigration isn't compassion, it's chaos waiting to happen. We don't know who's coming in, what their intentions are, or how our neighborhoods will cope. America can still stand as a light of hope, but only if it protects the very things that make it strong: law, order, and stability. If we forget that, it won't take long before the country we love starts to resemble the very places people risk everything to flee. Maher's warning echoes clearly. Compassion should never come at the cost of survival. Sanctuary cities are straining under their own contradictions, blue states are quietly retreating, and even longtime supporters of open borders are now calling for limits. Yet many on the left still refuse to face the truth. Open borders don't save lives, they put them at risk. That's where we'll leave it for today. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more videos just like this one.